To record.
How about this? I'm starting to record on my computer. I'll send that to you all after we're done here.
That sounds great.
Perfect. All right, I'll go ahead and do that. So we're now recording.
Mhm.
So I guess first things first, when we're talking about Chapman, I think the physical presence and kind of where we're located is one of the first things I like talking about. So Chapman University is a private, medium-sized liberal arts institution. I do like to say all three of those attributes when describing Chapman because they're very important, especially the size component to it, and then also the type of education that you're getting out of a private school like Chapman. So we are located in Orange, right in the middle of Southern California. So that puts us right in the middle of two of the bigger metropolitan areas, Los Angeles as well as San Diego. I think a lot of students do appreciate that separation between the big city life, but still having them at their disposal and still being able to travel within a short distance, less than an hour to LA and then only about an hour and a half to San Diego, whether it's the social experiences that you get in those places or the professional ones, but also just talking about Orange County in general, where we are located. It's a really big hub for a lot of different industries, whether we're talking STEM, whether it's more so on the health sciences, more so on the engineering side of things, when we're talking about the city of Irvine. Also a really big concentration of educators here in Orange County. So there's a lot of different things to do for our students, whether it's post-grad, internship, or if they're looking to do something during their break time. We are one of the oldest institutions in California. We are very similar in terms of the age of other private schools such as USC, as well as the University of San Diego, maybe a little bit older. And then in terms of our size, I did mention we are a medium-sized institution. So we're a little bit in the middle when it comes to the experience. So much larger institutions are going to have that community where you're seeing a lot of new people every single day. It's never really the same person. You're meeting a lot of new professors. New resources are always available to you, but you also have that smaller class setting where you're seeing a lot of your same classmates throughout the semesters. You're seeing a lot of your friends kind of walking around the campus. So you can kind of see with that undergraduate overall enrollment, just a little over 7,600. So again, seeing a lot of the same people, but also at the same time, you're meeting a lot of new people. In my own personal experience as a student, even up until my last semester as a Chapman student, I was meeting some new people that I'd never crossed paths with before. And I was the exact same grade as they were, or they were the same grade as me. So that's kind of a cool thing. In terms of our representation, we're represented all around the United States, their territories, as well as different countries. The countries that you see, or the number of countries that you see, is also a representation of our dual citizen students. So we want to make sure those students feel that they are welcome to celebrate that identity of theirs. Also, at the same time, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. I'd be more than happy to answer that for you. I want to make sure that this is as much of a discussion as it is a presentation. So this particular slide that we're on now, this is a list of all of our academic colleges on campus, with the exception of the very last one. These are all accessible to our undergraduate and graduate students. Obviously, with our law school, this is going to be something for our students who have already achieved their bachelor's degree and are looking to pursue a law career. But for the first 10 bullet points, these are all different colleges on campus, ranging from business to our School of Communication, to more of the STEM side with our engineering school, our College of Behavioral and Health Sciences, and as well as our Schmidt College of Science and Technology. Really a lot of different disciplines inhabit Chapman classrooms. And what's very unique about a lot of these colleges is that they work together to develop a very general sense of education. So a lot of schools are going to talk about what their general education program is. Very often it's going to be a requirement, and then you have a class that you take to fulfill that. In our kind of motto, we want students to customize their learning experience and the type of education that they're getting from us. So rather than us telling you what class to take in order to satisfy a certain requirement for your general ed, you're the one that essentially chooses it. So let's take it, for example, for students that are maybe not as interested in the arts, maybe want to do something more that's of interest to them than maybe what a general art type of requirement would be, such as art history or a regular history class. You can technically tailor that something into the sciences if you wanted to, or something a little bit more math oriented. So music theory is one of the classes that I like to talk to students about. because it has that blend of the arts, but also mathematics. So for students who do have that interest, they could do that. Or maybe for the students that are not as interested in the sciences or in the STEM field, they're able to take something more on the art side that still has something to do with mathematics, or maybe something to do with the life sciences. So there's a lot of flexibility in the classes that you take on top of the major or minor courses that you're going to be taking for what you want to study. On top of that, there's a lot of flexibility with the different colleges. Like, let's say if you wanted to major something in the sciences, maybe double major in a completely different college, or wanted to minor in a completely different college. That is entirely possible. As I kind of mentioned with my experience, being a computer science student, maybe at a much larger institution, it would be a little bit difficult for me to do something in music because of all the prerequisites they have, all the requirements there. With Chapman, they made that very easy for me. I ended up declaring a music technology minor where I was doing a lot of things with sound engineering, recording, audio engineering, stuff like that. And all the equipment was included with the minor. I didn't have to be a major to have access to the facilities, to the labs, to the equipment. It was definitely something that was afforded to me as just a regular Chapman student. And the university really wants to broaden your horizons, explore your interests a little bit more than you thought you would have been able to. But it's also important to talk about the outside of classroom experience, what that social life at Chapman looks like. So being a part of a medium-sized private institution, there's really a lot that you're able to do. Different ways to get involved, such as joining a club or an organization. On our campus, there's over 190 plus. It's kind of ridiculous that we have over 190 plus, but that's just goes to show all these different interests that students have and how many people share those same interests as them. So obviously we have our much larger groups, such as our diversity and cultural organizations on campus, our Chapman Greek Life, both social and professional Greek life chapters, our religious and spiritual groups. But then we also have some of our smaller clubs for leisure. So some students really enjoy the great outdoors, whether it's surfing, nature walks, snowboarding or skiing. We're obviously in close proximity to a lot of these geographical locations, whether it's the beaches or the mountains. And then you also have some random clubs for students interested in watching movies all the time. There's even a home ec club where students are just learning how to cook, learning different dishes. There's a car club on campus for any video game people. We have an esports team, so for students who like to compete for different popular games. There's a lot of variety when it comes to our clubs, so students really do find their fit. But I think it's important to talk about involvement more than just a social kind of development. There's a professional side to it too. And for us, that's research. And when you think of research, it's not just something that is reserved for the sciences. This is something that's also afforded to our students in the business school, in our College of Educational Studies, even in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. There's such a large and wide open world when it comes to research nowadays that we have those facilities, we have those labs for students to explore, we have the space for them to receive those grants and those contracts to kind of help them with the resources that they'll need to research even further. So you can kind of see there's actually 10 independent research centers for all of our students to utilize. But then there's also the community service side. Students really enjoy that piece of getting to know the Orange community, whether it's working with local high schools, local organizations, or even participating in some of our facilities. So we have a campus community garden that actually plays a part with the local farmers market. So whatever we grow in that garden, we actually sell at the local farmers market. Whatever money we make from it goes right back into the garden. So it's a very self-sustaining type of garden that students really do like being a part of. But then there's also that sense of community service in different areas other than California. Whether you want to go to a different state or a different country, we have what is called an alternative break program. So you essentially volunteer for a program where you'll be gone for about a week to 2 weeks, and then you'll have the opportunity to work as a community, as a student body in these different places. So to kind of give you an idea what that study abroad experience is, I actually have a video to show, but before we get into that, there are 3 different types of experiences that you can get through study abroad: travel courses, our regular semester abroad system, and then our semester at sea program. And I'll kind of talk about those more in depth after the video. take this off.
Travel course really started in the 80s. I had just come back from 3 trips to the Galapagos Islands making a documentary film and thought this is the best place to take students on a travel course. Darwin and the Galapagos is a course in which we learn about Charles Darwin's life, learn about the Galapagos Islands, and then in the interim actually go to the Galapagos and tour in the Galapagos and see the environmental situation, walk in the footsteps of Charles Darwin, basically experience what he experienced.
And we've been talking about the Galapagos Islands, and I've seen them on a map, but we're actually here.
I think everybody was just all of a sudden excited. If you were tired, you weren't tired anymore. You were just like ready to get off the plane and go explore it.
The biggest highlight is just the ability to be face to face with wildlife. Whether you're on land or in the water, you can get within an arm's length of an organism and it's not afraid of you. There are many things. I think every single day is a unique experience that you can't have anywhere else on Earth.
It was without a doubt the most beautiful place I have ever seen in my life, whether it's personally or on film or in a photo. Like, it was just breathtaking. And I've never had an experience like that.
I feel like we change lives by that experience. People come back no matter what their major is, excited, enthusiastic, have learned a lot, and are interested in conserving what's there.
All right, so that's a little bit about our study abroad programs. Obviously, that was just the travel course that we saw. There are multiple other travel courses that we offer through a variety of different subjects and disciplines. But then going to our semester abroad programs, you pretty much apply a year in advance. You have that time to work with our advising staff, getting ready to work with the embassy to get your student visa, all of your live-in accommodations when you're in the country itself. And then obviously with our semester at sea program, that's something where you're on a cruise ship the entire semester and you're visiting multiple countries as opposed to just the one. So that's something that a lot of students really look forward to if they are interested in studying abroad at some point. So now we're going to transition a little bit into the admission process. So just based off of the picture and screenshot you see on the right-hand side, this is what it looks like for all of our applicants, both students applying out of high school as well as applying out of the community colleges or other college systems. But the 2 dates I really do want to focus on here are November 1st and January 15th. So because those are our main application deadlines. So November 1st is early action and early decision. Sound pretty similar, but they are pretty different. So with early action, that is a non-binding application. Early decision is a binding application. So essentially, if you are interested in a school to the point where that is the only institution you can imagine yourself at, early decision is probably going to be the best bet for you. Obviously, have those conversations with your counseling staff, with your family as well, to make sure this is the right move for you. But other than that, early action is a good opportunity too. You apply earlier, but you also have the same flexibility to decide what school you're going to attend May 1st. So whereas early decision, once you receive your acceptance from that school you applied early decision to, you will then have to make your deposit shortly after. So those are just some things to think about. Regular decision is also a great opportunity for students that maybe want to include the first semester of their senior year. This will give them an added bonus to their GPA just because there's an extra semester in there. Whereas students who apply for November 1st, we're really going to only see the first 3 years of their high school experience. And then obviously, as we go down the road, we'll see that first semester. And then by the end, we'll see the spring semester as well. So it's entirely up to students. However, depending on what you're interested in, you may have to apply November 1st. So there are 6 majors where we highly, highly recommend students to apply for November 1st. And that's going to be our film productions program, screen acting, theater performance, TV writing and production, our pharmacy program, and our dance program. So if you're interested in any of those 6 majors, November 1st is going to be the only date you look at. You can still technically apply for any of those 6 majors later on. However, the acceptance rates do drop pretty dramatically in those future deadlines, specifically January 15th. So I want to make sure all those students are applying at the same time in November. You can definitely figure out when you'll be hearing back with a decision on the bottom part of the timeline. So if you apply earlier, you'll hear back sometime in mid-December. And if you apply in January, you'll hear back sometime in mid-March. As for the application materials, Chapman is a Common App school. So you'll be applying to our university through the Common App. It essentially splits into 2 different parts. It's going to be the same for any other university that uses the Common App for their application. So the very first part's a general sense of the application. The second piece to it is going to be very specific to the institution. So we're going to have what is called the Chapman questions. It's going to ask you about why you interested in this major at Chapman, why you interested in being a part of our community. So there's a few different questions we'll ask of you. There's some fun ones at the very end that we look forward to reading. One of my personal favorite questions that we see often is, while I'm reading your application, what song would you like me to listen to? And I actually take that question pretty seriously. I'll have Spotify loaded on the side, ready with all the different songs that students recommended, and I'll just play them. I actually have a playlist here of all the songs that were recommended last year. I believe overall it was about a playlist of close to 300 songs. So I definitely do take that question seriously. So definitely use your imagination when it comes to those questions. For some majors, there's going to be an additional piece known as the creative supplement. So this is going to be mostly for students applying into our film school, into our performing arts, as well as any of our art programs. And it'll vary depending on what program you're applying to of what you'll need to submit. Something like in film production is going to be a video you submit. Something in our performing arts, it's going to be an audition. And then something in our art programs, it's most likely going to be a portfolio of some of your best work. But that's kind of it in terms of the admission process or timeline. Definitely feel free to ask if there are any questions about it. And kind of moving into this slide right here, this is going to be my last one that we'll talk about. But in terms of the idea of affordability, cost of attendance, financial aid, this is something that we welcome all the time in terms of a conversation, whether it's with the student themselves, a counseling staff, or the entire family. When it comes to private schools, and I'm not just speaking on behalf of Chapman, we do want to give as much financial aid as possible. We want to make sure that the institution and university is going to be as affordable as possible with the information and context that we're given. So with that being said, we always recommend students to submit a FAFSA as early as possible. It opens October 1st, so definitely submit an early FAFSA. It will definitely take a lot of pressure off of you the earlier you do it. Definitely don't wait until that March 2nd deadline. Do it much earlier than that. In terms of the type of financial aid you'll be reviewed for, obviously, we have that need-based side of things. So the federal and state government is looking at the overall financial information, but Chapman is also looking at that information too. So we award what are called Chapman Grants, and students can receive those types of grants based on level of income that is shown in the FAFSA. But then we also offer merit scholarships, which range all the way up to $36,000 being our highest mark. And those are renewable every single year as long as you maintain a 2.75 GPA. We have department scholarships ranging between $3,000 and $8,000, sometimes $7,000. A little bit smaller in size, but they can definitely make the difference. And then last but definitely not least, we have our mission-driven awards, and you can kind of see how much money we've spent in terms of those types of scholarships, almost $2 million. So what these awards specifically are, they're for certain communities on our campus. So the one that I always talk about is our Thurgood Marshall Scholarship for our first-generation students. So if you identify as first generation, you come from a low income background or lower middle income background, that is something that we look to award students in addition to what they're already receiving to make Chapman a little bit more affordable. And in terms of students on campus that are receiving financial aid, that's around 86%. And you can see that right there. So again, we try to make Chapman as affordable as possible for our students to make sure that they're focusing on their academic experience as opposed to trying to figure out a way to pay for Chapman in general. that's kind of it for me. This is my contact information slide, but I'll also put it in the chat box. I have some other links to share too, so I'll go ahead and stop sharing this. So the very first link that you see, that is the registration page for this particular session that we're in right now. For any interested students, if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, when you do end up submitting an application, regardless whether you're a sophomore, junior, or senior, whenever you do apply, this form will pop up on your application and it'll show us that you've attended an event of ours, specifically at your high school. So definitely feel free to register for that. The second link in there is for our visiting opportunities. So if you're looking to visit virtually or in person, we offer both. So feel free to check those out. And then the last link is going to be for our degrees and programs. So if you want to learn more about the different majors that we offer, whether it's a major or minor, that is entirely up to you. You can check out that link as well. And then I've also left some contact information for myself and the Office of Admission in general. So that's kind of it for me, folks. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos. That was really cool. Do you have a question? Any questions you want to ask? Not really. All right, well, we also lost another student during the presentation, but she said to say thank you and that she really appreciated it as well. So I'm going to forward your contact info to her as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you so much. And just a couple of comments. I really loved what you said about listening to music when you're going over the applications. If I ever make it to admissions rep, I definitely want to do that because I was a music theory major.
Really?
For my master's, yes, in music theory. So I was just like, that was a really cool part of the presentation for me.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
So yeah, Chapman University sounds super awesome. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll go ahead and